might think you're calling her.
She's here. She's here.
Oh, she's here?
Yes, definitely. The PWD advocates. Okay, stand by. Okay. Okay. Hello, PWD Advocates TV. Okay. Hello, Heather. Yes, and for tonight.
There we go.
Okay, for tonight, okay, our topic is, will you love when it's hard? Okay, will you love when it's hard? A very difficult question, but with us tonight is Heather Hinton Fillmore. She's a life coach. She's a mother of, she has a daughter with cognitive disability.
I have 2 daughters.
All right. Okay. So good evening, everybody. Good evening, especially to Heather. Heather, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay. And of course, I'd like to thank Annette for making this connection with Heather and our small TV production possible. Annette, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yes. And to Nelda, Gloria, Joey, Nikki. Okay. So, Heather, this is our small panel of anchors for our program this evening. Okay.
Okay.
And Nelda will be our main interviewer, and I'll be back up.
Okay.
Okay. So, Nelda?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening to all our televiewers, and good morning who are good evening and good morning who are to those to our all our televiewers who are watching live in Facebook and YouTube live, and to all social uh, media platform sites. Tonight we have a special guest, our Miss Heather Hilton Fillmore.
Fillmore, yes.
Yeah, and I guess uh, I have. Can I start, Mom, with my a question?
Go ahead, Nelda. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Mom, what is why will you love when it is hard? Is the title of our why and why? Uh, uh,
Are you asking me that? Sorry.
yeah, why?
Oh,
What? Because the title of our show is "Will You Love When It's Hard?" I want to know why.
okay. I think he chose that from my website. It was just in the name of a blog post that I wrote. But the reason I wrote that is because sometimes loving doesn't just come naturally, and that was the case with our children with disabilities. We adopted them. They weren't born to me. They came to me when they were older. So one was 4 years old. I have 2 girls who have Down syndrome. One was 4, and one, when we brought her home, we adopted them from Russia. And the other one was 5.5. And they had spent their lives in an orphanage and didn't get a lot of attention or care like most kids get. And so they had a lot of behaviors because of that. And not having known them from the time they were babies, I had to grow this attachment with them. And it didn't come naturally to me. It was something that I had to really, really work on. And it took years. It didn't just happen, within a few months or even a couple of years. It took a lot of time, but I know that it's because of the work that I put into it, of just deciding that I could love them just like I do the rest of my kids, and learn to grow that bond with them. So it was a decision that I made in my mind, and I knew that I could do it, and I had to work on it, but it worked. It happened.
Uh, thank, thank, um,
I mean, I'm just curious, Heather, because you have the option to use several terms for the first word that you asked in the question. You could have asked, "Can you love when it's hard?" You could have
Mhm.
said, "Will." You could have said, "Must you love when it's hard?" But you chose the word "will."
Oh, yeah.
Why did you choose the word "will" instead of all other terms that you could have used to phrase that question?
That's a good question. I mean, it is a commitment that you have to make. Like you can decide, you know. I think people that have children that are born to them with disabilities, I don't know what it's like for other people, because I don't have that experience of just having them, um, just appear in my life. But I know that other people don't have that decision. Like, here you go, you have this baby that has Down syndrome, or whatever the disability is, and they have two choices. They can think that this is a big problem and their life is going to be so hard, and um, it's not, everything's going to be a burden and challenging. Or they can just decide, like, it is a decision. They can decide to go ahead and just think of this as, how is this actually an opportunity for me to grow as a human being, and to, learn how to love in a way that I didn't know how before, and to, maybe this child is going to be a big influence on other people in the world. Maybe this child is exactly what other people need to help them, to have better lives. How can I use this as an opportunity for me, and make it amazing instead of this hard burden.
So you
So
you,
yeah,
you have
it's a
two
willingness.
you have two daughters, right? Two daughters. These are your natural daughters with
No, they were both adopted from Russia.
okay,
The the ones that, so we actually have 9 children total.
nine.
I'm a big family.
And
But yeah, so we had 5 children. And then after the 5th one, we decided that we wanted to provide a family for someone that didn't have the opportunity to have a family, because I really feel like every child deserves a family, and we thought, well, we have a good marriage, we have money to provide for more children. Maybe we can provide for a child that wouldn't otherwise have a family. And so we, at first, we're not thinking about Down syndrome, or any kind of disability, but we were just really moved upon when we found out that they are given up for adoption in many countries. I don't know if it's like this in the Philippines, but a lot of people, when they have a child with Down syndrome, they turn them over to the authorities to raise, and that's how it is in Russia. So we really felt like that was a calling for us, and something that God wanted us to do. So that's why we did that. But yeah, so we had 5, and then we adopted Anya in 2011, and then Hazel in the end of 2012. So that grew our family from 5 to 7. And we had those two girls for a few years, and it was crazy and hard. um, we eventually kind of got used to having them in our lives and our family. And then we decided to go to China, and we adopted a boy who has cerebral palsy, and he was 6 years old at the time, or sorry, 8 years old, and then also a 2-year-old little boy. So we brought home two children at the same time from China. So
And so after, did you adopt uh, two children with Down syndrome I mean, one after the next, or did you have
yes, they were 2 years apart.
2 years apart? So
Yes.
5, 6, 7, and then you had two more natural children. Is that it?
No, the last two came from China.
Oh, the last. Oh, okay. You know,
Yeah.
the first idea that how we could theme this program was you had a post that said our hands are full, but so
Uh-huh.
are our hearts.
Right.
Yes, I was
Yes.
I was torn between those two themes. And
Yes.
I'm just curious. Okay, you had an adopted child with Down syndrome, and then why do you what moves you to help more and more children?
It's it wasn't something that we planned at the beginning. We weren't thinking, oh, we will, eventually help 4 children. That wasn't the plan at all. The plan was just to bring
Uh,
home Anya, and
okay.
she was the first one, and then it just one at a time, and the only way I can explain it is just a feeling we had deep inside that this was meant for our lives, that this was
Mhm.
part of the plan for our lives. And yeah, so we just added one at a time. So Hazel came next, and then a couple of years, I think 3 or 4 years later, were the boys from China. So
And
yeah.
and is this common in in America? Is this or is this
I
some?
think
Uh-huh.
compared to the rest of the world, it is common. Um, it's common for people to adopt, or I don't know, do you have in the Philippines, do you have foster care, like where you,
Yes, we have.
yeah.
We have.
So that's a lot more common here to take older children through foster care. But it's also, there's programs where you can go and adopt children from other countries. So,
Mm,
it's not really common, but it's definitely more common than in other countries, because we just have more resources here to help these children. We have, you know, um, the school systems support them, and our society supports them, and they just get a lot more of what they need being in a family and having what we have here. So
in the
I
Philippines, what is more common in the Philippines is to leave the child in the doorsteps of the church.
yeah,
Yeah, and then hoping that somebody will get the child and adopt the child
yeah.
unofficially. That's a common
So
practice.
do they get turned over? Does the government take them and then they are in an institution like a um, orphanage until someone adopts them? Or
Well, if the person who found the child by the doorsteps of the church, she has
mm-hmm,
the option to take care of the child herself, or give the child to the foster care of the
mm,
government or church
yeah,
organizations.
mm.
And your what is your experience now that you have adopted children with disability? what
Mhm.
experience did you get, or you are still getting, that other parents are missing? That other parents are missing.
Well, this is Hazel.
Oh,
She
hello,
just walked
Hazel.
in. Come
Hi,
here, come
Hazel.
meet my friends. Can you say hi? Say hi to
Hello,
my
Hazel.
friends. Hazel's, Hazel's 11 years old now. Oh, no, she just turned 12. Can you show him 12?
12.
12.
Hello to. So Hazel is from Russia? Uh,
Yes.
From
Yeah,
Russia.
we adopted her when she was 4.5. So we've had her for what, 8 years now?
How old are you? 12. Yes. Hazel.
Yes.
Hazel, how are you, Hazel? How are
Say
you?
hi. She speaks her own language. Nobody can understand it.
I see. so, so uh, and Hazel, um, what do you like to do? What are your hobbies, Hazel?
What do you like to do,
What are your
Hazel?
hobbies?
Like, she likes to color. She loves to
Okay.
color. Yeah. And play with her toys.
Mm.
And she likes to be really silly. And she likes to go out and play with our dogs outside and swim. She loves
Wow.
to swim.
Wow.
Okay, go see Daddy now. Okay.
Nice to meet you, Hazel.
Hi.
Yes. You mentioned earlier that you have a son that you like to uh, join you.
Yeah, I thought he would be on the call, but I don't see him. Let me see if he texted me. No.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought he doesn't live here. He's married.
I see. I see.
But maybe he slept in or something.
Okay. And yes, you're a life coach. And as a life coach, what what do you want to uh, others to know about your work as a life coach?
Yeah, what I learned to do is to help people to basically to see how they are creating their own problems with their mind. And so a lot of times we just think that we're the victim of our lives, like life is so hard. All of these things make my life so hard. My children or my spouse or my money or my health make my life so hard. And so what I learned to do is to help people to to realize that they're creating the results in their lives with the thoughts that they are thinking. And I help them to see things differently, and kind of like a therapist, I guess, but it's just very based on your thoughts and what you're creating with your thoughts. So I work one-on-one with people on Zoom, just like this. We meet on Zoom, and I just talk them through their problems or their dreams, what they want to create in their lives. I help them to get in the mindset to be able to create what they want in their lives.
But what about in your case, Heather? You don't
Mm.
have a natural child with disability, and yet you got one. Isn't that making your life harder than what it should be already?
Mm. It definitely makes my life harder. Yes. It's, I mean, I can't lie. I want to say, I want to tell you that it's just all wonderful all the time.
Mhm.
But it's definitely harder, only because our girls, they have behavior that's difficult sometimes, and but that's it is that very thing. Their behaviors are what grow me as a person.
Mhm.
So I'm becoming a more loving, caring, accepting person in my life because of them. They're teaching me how to do that with the experiences that we have. So
but when you first adopted were, did you know that these benefits would happen, or
I
bef-
did, and I knew that they were going to be our teachers, because all we knew up to that point was life with typical children. We didn't have any other experience than that, but it was really the scariest thing that we've ever done.
Mhm, mhm.
I won't say that it was just a decision we made and we just went for it and everything was wonderful. It was very, very scary
What scared
to
what sc- what scared you most?
um just knowing that our lives were going to change, that they weren't going to be normal anymore. It wasn't, our lives weren't going to look like our neighbors anymore, our friends and our family. We knew a lot of what was the most scary was just what we didn't know at the time. We thought that they were just going to be this heavy burden on our lives, and it would be so hard to take care of the rest of our children because of the burden that they place on our lives. And it's so interesting because that's just all we didn't know any different. We were just going off of our perception of other people. When you see other people that have kids with disabilities, you kind of feel sorry for them, like, oh, this must be so hard for them. But we didn't realize that, yes, it will be hard, but then at the same time, they're going to bring so many blessings into our lives that it will outweigh the hard. And so, like if someone were to ask me, would you recommend adopting a child with Down syndrome? I would say it's just no, it's yes, your life is going to change. It's going to be different than what you have right now. It's going to look very different. You're going to have more appointments to go to, therapy. You're going to have to work really hard on helping them to learn to talk clearly, and maybe some other things you're going to have to work on. But hard doesn't always mean wrong or bad. Sometimes hard means growth and beauty. And I look at my other children, especially the older ones. I have, our oldest is now 24 and he's married. The second oldest just got married. She's 21. And then our 18-year-old, they're all going to college and working, and they all have jobs working with people with disabilities. That's how they make money. And they love, it's just their lives. It brings them joy, and that wouldn't have happened. It would seem hard and scary for them if we had never done this. Like, they would have thought of those people as, oh, too much work, I can't do that. But it's just become a normal part of their lives, and they see the beauty of their disabilities, and they want to help. So it's neat to see how it's affected all of our kids and changed them into different people than they were before.
How was your decision-making process? Okay, you were scared, and
Yeah.
then what did you do to resolve your fears and eventually deciding, okay, let's go for this? How did you process the pros and cons? How did you decide to go for
It
it?
was a lot of hold on just a sec. My
Uh,
son that's getting
okay,
on the call.
okay,
Let me just tell him
okay.
that we're on. We're on. Get on. Okay. So okay, go downstairs with Dad. Okay. Yep, go see Dad. Hurry.
Mom.
Or go tell Dad that Hazel's up here. Okay.
Yeah, Dad wanted, he's okay with you without asking. So
Okay, go
Dad
get him.
sends me up here.
All right, go get him.
Sorry.
So how did we get to the go from fear to let's go ahead and do this? Is that
Yes.
what you're asking?
Yes.
Just, I mean, really just a lot of prayer. That's the only way I can explain it. Just really, asking God if this is right for us and telling him if this is what you want for us, we really, really need your help. And it kind of felt like jumping off of a cliff. Like you get to the very edge and you're like, there's that scary unknown under there that I've never experienced before. And if I take this step, everything's going to change in my life. It was so terrifying. I mean, I can't even tell you how scary it was. But, it was like we took the step and then all of a sudden, it was like we were lifted and carried along the way, and that's the only way I can explain it. It was just a very spiritual experience for us.
And
So
and now
yeah.
that you have the benefit of hindsight of since you decided, you went for it, you applied for an adoption. Now you're at this stage now in your life where everything seems to be adjusted. Everybody
Yes.
has adjusted. How would you describe the journey between from the time that you had them with you up to now?
Uh-huh.
How would you illustrate the journey that you went through?
Oh, that's, the word journey is exactly what it was. It started out with at the beginning with each adoption, really, there were 3 adoptions. With each one, we would bring them home and we're just, what have we done? This is awful. I don't know what got into us to make us think we could do this, and it took a long time, for each one of just a lot of mistakes and a lot of really ugly moments where you just look at yourself and you're thinking, who am I? I don't even feel like the same person that I was before. And, questioning, was this right? I don't even know what were we thinking, and then it was just a very, very gradual process of allowing them into our hearts, just taking off that wall that was there that was not letting them in, and getting it out of the way and just deciding that we could love them as God loves them, and it, like I said, it was years. It took me 3 years with probably about 3 years with all of them, to get to that point where I felt bonded with them like I did my other children. And I know it's different it depends on how old the child is when they come into your lives. The youngest one from China was 2 years old, so he was like a baby to me. So that bond was instant, and it was, it wasn't as hard. But the older they are when they come into your lives, the more work you have to put into creating that bond.
Are you contemplating on adopting another one?
We are not, actually. This is it for us. Our hands are full and our hearts are
I
full, but
see.
we don't want them to be any more full. We're
Okay.
also getting old. We're getting close to 50 years old now, so I think it's time. We actually just had our first grandchild, so we're going to go into that phase of our lives now.
Okay. Nelda, I've taken a lot of your question. Nelda.
Yes, I have a question with Miss Heather. Mom,
Yeah.
when did you learn that you have passion with adopting children with disability?
When did I say that first part again?
When did you learn that you have passion adopting children with disability.
When did I learn that I wanted to? Or sorry, I didn't.
When did you learn? When did you learn that? When did you learn that you have passion
Oh,
adopting children with disability? Yeah.
I've always had a passion for adoption in general. I feel like I remember even as a little girl, uh, laying in my bed and thinking about how, you know, how sad it is that some children don't have families. Like I couldn't even imagine not having a family,
Mhm.
you know. And I remember thinking,
Yeah.
you know, someday maybe I'll get to be a mom to someone who doesn't have a family, you know. And that was planted in me when I was probably like 6 or 7 years old. And I always kind of had it in the back of my mind. And then,
Mhm.
you know, after we had all of the children that I wanted to bear, I felt like I wanted to, you know, give birth to. That's when that, you know, that seed kind of sprouted, and it was like, okay, now is the time that you're going to do that. And at first it wasn't, we weren't open to disabilities, you know, because we thought, again, we just thought it was going to be too much of a burden for us, too hard. But then I learned on the internet, I learned about what happens with kids with disabilities around the world, how they're just, you know, left on church doorsteps, or, you know, at the hospital, the mom just, I know in Eastern Europe, the doctors tell them, this child has no hope for you, you know, you won't have anything you need if you keep this child. You just need to give it to the government, and so the government can raise it. And so they all are raised in orphanages and institutions there. And then when they get older, they go to horrible mental institutions where they're not taken care of at all. They're just left in a room all day
Yes.
long, and just
Yes.
no opportunity at all to live a normal life, you know. And when I learned
Yes.
about that, I thought, wow, you know, we can't help everybody, you know. There's not a lot I can do, but I can be the difference just for one, you know. Just that one child, I can provide love and opportunity for life. And it's not going to change the whole world, but it will change the whole world for that one child. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's how it became a passion in me. Once we were able to see the child go from being so neglected and so malnourished, and you know, not even knowing, being able to handle putting on shoes or wearing clothes because their brains were so messed up from not having any stimulation, you know, to this happy, thriving, bright child, seeing that transformation happen just because they have a family that loves them. I mean, even if we didn't have them go to school, even if they stayed home all day and we never taught them to read or talk, their life in a family is so much different and so much better. So that, you know, I feel very passionate about the fact that each child deserves a family, no matter
Yeah.
what
They
they,
are very lucky.
yeah, I mean,
Very lucky.
they they weren't lucky at first. It's not their fault, you know, it's not their fault that
That's
they were
that's
born with
true.
this. And
That's true, Mom.
it's just so sad that people don't see the opportunity that these children will bring into their lives.
Mhm.
Announcing the presence of your son.
Oh, is he here?
Oh,
Yes,
Okay.
he's here. Hi, what's introduce your son, Heather?
Okay, this is my son Landon, and the reason I thought it would be fun to have him here is because he speaks Tagalog.
Oh, wow.
He spent 2 years in the Philippines.
Wow.
So yeah,
Kamusta
you can
ka?
ask him any questions
Ayos
about
naman,
what.
ma'am.
Anong ginawa
Pero
mo sa
tignan natin kung
Pilipinas?
fluent pa ako kasi
Wow.
4 years na ako nakauwi, kaya titignan
Ganun.
natin kung
Wow, Tagalog pa
makakapagtagalog
rin.
pa ako.
Ano,
Oo,
Tagalog pa
anong
rin.
ginawa mo sa Pilipinas?
Bali, ano po, naging missionary ako para sa
Galing.
simbahan ni Jesucristo ng mga banal sa mga huling araw, or yung
Mm,
mas kilala sa tawag ng Mormons, di ba? So marami yung mga simbahan ng Mormons sa Philippines, and
Oo.
halos lahat ng mga Filipino, di ba, kilala nila yung pangalan ng Mormons. So naging missionary ako for 2 years doon, or dyan. And sobrang na-enjoy talaga ako. At actually, last year lang, kami ng asawa ko, nakapag-vacation kami sa Philippines din. Dumalaw kami sa Palawan, sa Baguio, sa saan pa kami pumunta? Sa Cabanatuan City. So, bali, nadisino ako sa bandang Nueva Ecija, Pampanga, tsaka saan pa? Tarlac pala. So,
Dumalaw ka ba sa Batangas? Batangas City? Lipa City.
hindi po. Hindi
Oo.
pa.
Kasi yung tito ko is Mormon siya.
Ay, ganun.
Oo. Painter siya. Painter siya. And isa sa mga paintings niya na exhibit sa isa sa mga exhibit ng art ng Church of the Latter-day Saints.
Talaga. Maganda yan.
Oo, very nagbago yung buhay niya eh. Nagbago buhay niya na dati mainitin ang ulo niya.
Kadalasan ganun talaga yung
Oo.
pagbabago sa mga tao, kasi 'di ba mahalaga ang relihiyon sa buhay ng mga tao, at kung may Diyos talaga tayo sa buhay, mas malambot ang puso natin, at tatanggapin din natin yung mga anak na ganito, 'di ba, na may disabilities. Mas madali sa mga families na tanggapin ang mga tao na ganyan pag alam natin na mga anak din sila ng Diyos, kahit na may disability sila. Kailangan nating alagaan sila. So,
Ayan. Nelda? Ikaw ang Nelda.
and pasensya, hindi ako nagpa-introduce myself.
Sige. Oo nga.
Landon pala, first
sila.
name ko. So Landon Fillmore, ang pangalan ko, at si Heather Fillmore ang nanay ko. So
Ayan.
I was born in Utah in the United States, and noong 18 years pa lang ako magulang, nakapunta ako sa Philippines at nakatuto ako na mag-Tagalog. At while I was on my mission, so the last 6 months, I think, of my mission, or siguro yung last 9 months, I received an email from my mom that said that we were adopting another 2 boys from China. Siguro sinabi na niya na meron kaming 2 sisters from Russia and 2 brothers from China, diba? And so yung 2 brothers na from China, I was still in the Philippines as a missionary when she emailed me and told me that we would be bringing them home into our family. So that was medyo mahirap na, kasi marami na kami mga makakapatid at may mga disabilities na yung dalawa, kaya it was kind of hard for me to understand why we would adopt 2 more sa una. But now, 4 years later, sobrang nagpapasalamat ako na nag-adopt din kami ng dalawa pa, kasi sobrang special sila, at I can't imagine our family kung wala sila na yan.
Were your 2 brothers from China also did they also have a disability? Your 2 brothers from China?
One of them does.
One of them. Okay.
At first, we thought both of them did, and on the paperwork for the adoption, they said that the youngest one had hydrosyphilis. But we found out that that wasn't the case, and he actually has no disabilities at all. So the one brother, his name is Louis, he has cerebral palsy.
I see. Okay. Oh, Nelda? Nelda, would you like to ask Landon a question before we give the floor to our panel? Nelda, nakamute ka,
Nakamute pa
Nelda.
kayo.
Nakamute ka, Nelda.
Yeah, Sir Landon. Tanong ko lang, May plano ka ba na sundan ang yapak ni mommy mo, yung mag-adapt ng mga children with disability?
Huwag ka,
Mahirap sabihin na
wag ka
yun kasi
mapipilitan,
medyo
ha? Huwag ka mapipilitan dahil live tayo.
Oh, pipilitan.
ganon minsan. Pero mahirap sabihin na yun kasi kami ng asawa ko, 2 years pa lang kami been married or mag-asawa. So medyo bago pa ang marriage namin at she actually just gave birth noong 2 weeks ago. So meron kaming bagong baby
Congrats.
and siguro pakita ko ang picture. So I just made Heather a grandma. So sobrang masaya siya. Pero this is my daughter.
Wow. So cute.
So batang-bata pa siya. So wala pa sa plano ang pag-adopt. Pero we have discussed it. And kami ng asawa ko, we have talked about possibly adopting. We haven't discussed kung may disabilities or kung ano, pero I am open to it. And one really important thing to me, siguro parte ng paglalaki sa bahay ni Heather Fillmore at yung paraan kung paano niya akong ipinalaki ay yung acceptance talaga sa mga tao na ganyan. At yung buong buhay ko halos ay may mga tao na may disabilities na nakalibot sa akin. At so balang araw kung meron akong resources, kasi sobrang mahal talaga, sobrang mahal ang pag-adapt ng mga anak, lalo na kung galing sila sa mga ibang bansa, katulad ng Russia or China, kasi sobrang malayo yan, yung gastos ng biyahe sobrang mahal. So kung meron akong mga resources na kaya kong afford yung mga ganyan na gastos, yeah, sana makagawa kami ng ganyan.
God's will. God. Thank you, sir. Bigay ko na po yung ibang sa ibang kina Sir Kinamam Glo or
Correct.
kay Nikki or
I'd like to ask Annette muna. Annette, would you like to
yeah, si
comment
Mama
before
Annette. Mama Annette.
would you like to comment first before we give the Q&A to the panel?
I'm just really pleased that we had Heather come on. I knew she would be a great asset to your program and her son, because I think there's also a different experience for siblings as well. And as I said when I spoke to you, that my children also became better people because of it. And yesterday I realized I made a mistake. I was trying to say that Utah has more people with Down syndrome per capita than any other state in America, and I said any other state in Utah, so it was early. So yeah, and you heard that he served a mission for the church, and especially amongst people in our church, adoption and especially accepting children with Down syndrome, with disabilities in general, we don't abort them. So that's why there's so many people. Our church teaches us to love everyone and provide good homes for as many children as we can. And so you'll notice that we have big families here. All of us, the ones that you'll probably talk to, all have big families, but it is very much part of our spiritual journey and our culture. So yeah, it's just great to hear Heather's side, and I'm glad that she admitted that it is difficult for some people. A lot of people go through their own acceptance journey. Even if you give birth, there are birth mothers that have had to go through their own journey. I mentioned mine was very short, but for some people it takes time. Heather probably had language barriers with her children, and she probably had a lot of children in orphanages, they try to hide food because they don't know when they're going to get food again and things like that. And so there's a lot of trust that has to be built, and I just honor Heather and her family for being willing to take these children into their life and make a difference for them.
Thank you, Annette. And you reminded me for about another question for Landon. He mentioned siblings. So Landon, before I turn the floor to our panel, I'm curious because it wasn't also your. Did your mom ask you if you agree that mom will and mom and dad will adopt two more, or did they ask you?
Yes,
Yes. Uh-huh.
yes, she did, because through the adoption process, any children that are older than the age of 18, I think, and mom, correct me if I'm wrong in remembering this, but any child that is older than 18 has to agree and comply to the adoption.
I see.
So it has to be part of my decision, even though I was grown up and I had moved out and I was living, on the other side of the world, sa Pilipinas. I still had to send in my acceptance or my approval for the adoption. So it was very much her idea, but then I still had to approve of it. And I'm not gonna lie, it took me a little bit to get to the point where I was okay with that, because it is hard and we can't ever say that it's not going to be hard. But when I thought about it more, I realized that this was going to bring good things for our family, and also, of course, the best things for these children that we would be bringing into our family, because without us, they would be in an orphanage for the rest of their lives. And I remember the very first adoption, when we brought my oldest sister that has Down syndrome home to live with us. They talked to us about it before the adoption ever happened. They asked us questions, asked us what we thought, and we were much younger then. I was only 11 years old, I think, when that adoption was happening. And we were very excited because it was the first one. And the ones after that, like the second adoption of the little girl with Down syndrome from Russia, we have two sisters from Russia. That one was a little bit harder. So I think every time there's been a new adoption for us, it's been a longer process to accept that. But once we have, it's been joyful for us as a family. So
Have you, because I only have four children, and my difficulty was how to spend as much as possible equal time with each, okay? Considering all the work that I had to do, and with the available time I have for them, I have to divide it to four. But
yeah.
in your case, more children to be adopted would put less time for you, right? How do you deal with
Yeah.
that? How do you deal with mom and
Lalo
dad
na
spending less time for you?
lalo bilang panganay, kasi as the oldest child, I think I had the most time growing up with that one-on-one time with my parents. So habang lumaki ako, sobrang nagpapasalamat ako kasi yung buong attention nila, di ba, nakapokus sa akin nung bata pa lang ako. Kaya so sa paglalaki, I was able to spend a lot of time with my parents, and I think I was old enough and mature enough nung mga 15 ako, or lalo nung 18 or 19 years old ako, nakita ko na, sige, siguro hindi naman tapos, pero sapat na ang time ko sa paglalaki, or yung one-on-one time with my parents. And it's okay if they spend a little bit more time now focusing on these new children that they bring into our home. So it was a little bit hard because I feel like the new children's priorities become more important than my own. But I was, I think, old enough at that point to realize I had enough time as a young boy. I was the oldest, so I got all of that attention for a little while. And then even as we had 3 or 4 kids, we still got lots of attention from our parents. They are so loving. And Heather Fillmore has been often called an angel from people in the Philippines. When I told them my mother has adopted 2 kids and we're adopting 2 more, and she has 9 children total, and yung mga tao sabi nila, wow, angel talaga ang nanay mo, angel. And I will be very quick to agree that she is an angel on earth because of the things that she's done for those children and for me. So yeah, I would just say if you're going to be adopting, just find a way to spend some time with every single child, especially the new one. But you also have to realize that there will be some sacrifices, and that's okay.
What do
Kind
you
of relied on our other kids too to give them attention, you know, like where we couldn't give them attention ourselves, then the brothers and sisters
oh
kind of fill in a little bit.
that's a great teamwork, family
Yes,
teamwork.
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
I want to introduce you to my older girl with Down
Wow.
syndrome.
Hi.
This is Anya.
Hello,
Say hi.
Anya. Hello,
Hi.
Anya. Hi. Hello, Anya.
Yeah.
Hello, Anya.
Hello, Anya.
Anya's 15,
15.
and she can talk. She can talk a little better than Hazel. So if you want to ask her any questions, you can.
Tanya.
Olivia.
Tanya. Tanya, what's your favorite word?
Wala bang
Favorite word?
What's your favorite word?
What's your favorite word?
word? Hey, mommy.
Young women.
Young women?
She said young women's. It's a program that she goes to be
Oh,
with other teenage girls. She loves
wow.
it. Yeah.
Why do you love going to young women's?
That's a bag there.
She has fun there, she said. Yeah.
What do you do there?
Hi.
What do you do there?
What do you do
It has
when you go to young women?
mommy said play here and it has treats.
There's play and have treats.
Treats. Did you say treats?
Treats,
Treats.
yes.
What are your talents, Tanya? What are your talents?
What are you good at?
So that is nice.
What are you good at? You're nice?
Yes.
What else?
And Hazel and Nasa.
She's nice to Hazel, her sister, she said.
Mapuayo, that I Mia.
Yeah. Liam, come here. I'll show you our youngest from China. This is Liam.
Hello, Liam. Hello, Liam.
Oh, puppy. Liam is 6. He's
Hello,
our
Liam.
youngest. Yeah.
He didn't hide well.
Okay, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank
See
you.
later.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Oh, yung aso pala. Pati yung aso.
Pati aso adopted then.
Yeah.
Adopted din yan. Oh.
Adopted then. Okay. Okay, so who would like to ask a question first?
Yes, adopted.
Glo, would you like to ask a
Ah,
question
yeah,
first?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
sige.
Miss Heather, you have mentioned about the willing to adopt children with disability is a commitment.
Hmm?
What are the challenges and the burden you've been through?
Mainly the biggest challenge is just the behavior that they have. I don't know if you noticed, but my girls have big personalities. There's a lot of noise in the house and a lot of competition among the children that we adopted. They all want to have, you know, the most food, or they want to have the TV to watch, and you know, the toys that they want to play with, and so they fight a lot. That's probably, I'd say, the biggest challenge of anything is just the noise, because I like peace and quiet. And just having to always, you know, give them what they need to make them calm and happy. So other than that, you know, there's not big burdens. We don't have a lot of, you know, doctor's appointments or, you know, physical difficulties that are hard.
Are they studying?
Are they what?
Are they studying now, those children?
Are they studying?
Yes.
Yes, they go to school every day.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they go to, the girls are in public school, and they They spend about half of the day in a classroom that's just for kids with disabilities that need extra help. And then they also go into classes with typically developing children, and they go play outside, you know, with all of the kids and eat lunch with them. And they're really just integrated into society like all the rest of the kids are. So, yeah.
Ped school, Heather?
Yeah.
Ped school. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's regular. It's just a regular school, but they spend part of the day in a classroom that
Okay.
is just for special ed. Yes.
So thank you. Thank you, Heather.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Carmen is raising her hand. Carmen, go ahead. You're on mute, Carmen. Okay.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Hi.
Heather. First, I'd like to congratulate you, and you're really such an amazing woman. And although we've heard some people adopting children with disabilities, yet not as much as you have. And I'd like to ask, what can you advise to families who wants to adopt children with disabilities, even one? And I also like to say hi to London because my nephews are also missionaries of the Latter-day Saints, and I'd like also to inform you, maybe you are aware that the Latter-day Saints is the biggest donor of wheelchairs for people with disabilities in the whole Philippines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of humanitarian projects. So,
Yes.
maganda yan. Salamat po.
Okay, and my question to Ms. Heather is, what can you advise to families who wants to adopt children with disabilities?
Boy, I don't know. It depends on what you're asking about. I guess just know it's not as scary as you think it is. You know, if you have that little stirring in your heart, but it just seems too scary, just know that just take it one step at a time, you know, just the next day and then the next day, just like anything in life, you know, you figure it out as you go. And it's not.
Did you first sensitize yourself or study the needs of being a mom to a child with disability before you adopt them?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think it's a really good idea to do as much research as you can to learn about whatever disability, and also just to learn about, I mean, even if they don't have, you know, disabilities that are diagnosed, any child that has been without parents for any amount of time is going to have cognitive issues. Their brains, those early connections that are made as an infant, they didn't get those. And so it does cause, you know, even if they don't have, you know, disabilities, they are going to have kind of some behavior things or maybe some learning challenges. It affects them in different ways. So just really be prepared and realize what you're getting into, that it's not, you know, it's probably going to look very different than what you think it does, you know. So learn all you can about adoption, about the disability that you're bringing on, but then also know it may not be as scary as all the books say. You know, you'll have different challenges than what, you know, what it says that you're going to have. You just have to be open to anything. Just realize anything is going to happen and you just need to take it as it comes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think important that you have the heart, because it's your heart that communicates with them, because it's the love that really makes them accept you, though we can say that they may not understand what's going on, but the only thing they understand is the love that you are giving.
Exactly. Yes. Very true.
Yeah.
Love is the best language.
Love is the best language, and it's universal. Like we couldn't even communicate with our kids for a long time because we spoke different languages. So the only thing that they could experience was just, that acceptance and love.
Yeah.
So
And I'd like to ask Landon about being here in the Philippines for 3 years. That's really long enough, huh? I'm sure you are also able to encounter some persons with disabilities during your mission in the Philippines. And what is your first impression? Because persons with disabilities in your country are really, especially in the countrysides, they are much different from persons with disabilities in your country. So, what is your impression, and how do you feel about them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. And I actually have one thing, before I answer that question, if I can add to the question that you asked before to my mom about what advice she could give. The other thing that I wanted to add to that really quickly is networking. Because if there's one thing that I saw my mom do really well, and she's always been really good at this, is networking with other people who have already been through it themselves. And so we would go to events and organizations where there was, 50, 100, 100 people all grouped together that all have children with disabilities or children with Down syndrome specifically. And so I was able to see my mom, like she met someone like Annette, who I've never met Annette before. And I'm sure my mom knows a lot of people that I've never met before that have been able to help her with that transition of having someone adopted. And now she, as someone who has experience, is a coach or a mentor for people who are going through the process now to help them learn. So I think networking with other people that have gone through it before is super important as well. So reaching out and asking questions to those type of people is super helpful. But your question about my experience in the Philippines, I remember in my first area, it was in Santa Rosa, Nueva Ecija. And in Nueva Ecija, it's very bukid, diba?
Yeah.
Malayo sa bayan. Kahit yung pinakamalaking city na Cabanatuan, hindi naman sobrang malaki compared to Manila, syempre, or yung mga ibang cities sa Philippines that are so big. But in the more rural areas like that in Nueva Ecija or other places, there are often not access to resources, or sometimes families do not have a lot of money to provide the medical care that is necessary for people that have disabilities. And I do not remember meeting very many people that had disabilities that were older. For the most part, I noticed that there were people that had diabetes that had amputations na my leg or arm na naputol. Or I noticed that there were people that were cognitively slower, but I didn't ever notice anyone that had Down syndrome specifically. I never met anyone in the Philippines that had Down syndrome. And I remember thinking about that because in America, I remember seeing that more often. Pero siguro nahiya ako na magtanong sa mga Filipino kung saan kaya mga tao na may disabilities, or saan sila nagtatago, or kung ganon. I was wondering, why am I not seeing more people like that? And so that was kind of my impression, was that there should be more people with disabilities, or yung people na naka-wheelchair, nakatulad ng sinabi nyo na there are so many people that need resources like a wheelchair to be able to move and get out of the house and even be able to return to work. And because they don't have access to those, sometimes in those very rural areas, you don't see them very much. Nakatago lang sila sa bahay, inaalagaan sila ng mga kamag-anak nila, diba? So yeah, I think that's kind of what my impression was. And I was always super excited to meet people na naka-wheelchair kung ano pa, kasi I've had experience and exposure to people with disabilities, and it was always a special opportunity for me to meet them and to sometimes teach them as a missionary as well about the love that God has for them, even though their body isn't perfect, their spirit is. And it was always a very uplifting message bilang missionary to teach them about yung pagmamahal ng Diyos para sa kanila.
I think your impression is very right, especially in the province like Nueva Ecija, wherein you will only see people with disabilities if during the disability day. But here in the Philippines, every February, parents together with their children with Down syndrome are gathering for an activity, and you will notice that those children with Down syndrome who were there came from well-to-do families, and they are well taken care of. But children with Down syndrome from poor families were brought by their school, special school, and you will see the difference between the rich and the poor children with who were brought up by families. Those children with Down syndrome, very really you don't see the gap because they don't have access to rehabilitation services, speech therapies, occupational therapies, and other medical requirements. So,
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you very much, Carmen. I'll give a chance to Joey. Joey, can you show yourself sa camera? Joey, pakita ka. Joey, may question kasi si Joey. Ito yung question niya, nasa chat. Joey has cerebral palsy. Pakitanong po kung paano niya inaalagaan ang mga anak niya na iba't ibang disability. Landon, pakisalin sa Ingles. Pakitanong po kung paano niya inaalagaan ni mami mo ang mga anak niya na iba't ibang disability.
Mom, for you, kind of talk about how you have taken care of your different children that have different disabilities, because you have a child with cerebral palsy and then you have children with Down syndrome, but the care that you have to give to each of them is very different, and the care that we have to give to Louis, who has cerebral palsy, is very different from the care for the girls. So how has that been for you, and like what does that care look like for children with different disabilities?
Yeah, it is very different because the girls, they can physically do everything that we do. We don't even have to really think about going somewhere with them, or going to a park or swimming or anything. They can just do it. And then, but then they have the behavioral challenges. And then we have our Louis, who he's very well behaved and easy to have around, but we really have to think ahead if we're going to take him somewhere. He walks, but he needs help. He doesn't balance very well. He just had surgery to help his foot to be able to sit down flat on the ground, and he's recovering from that. And so he has an extra hard time getting around. So anytime we've had to change our lifestyle a little bit, having him in our family, because we used to be very active, going out in the outdoors and going hiking and doing more physical things, and we can't do a lot of those things with him. And so it is a little bit of a lifestyle change for sure, but it's worth the payoff. It's, you know, we're willing to do it. We kind of have to just adapt our lives a little bit. Sometimes we'll go on, some of the kids will go, you know, do the physical things, and some of them will stay home. It looks a little different for our family, I think, than other families, but we just make it work. So.
What about from Nikki? Nikki also has cerebral palsy. Nikki, would you like to ask a question?
Hi, Nikki.
Yes, hello. Good evening, Ma'am Heather.
Hi.
I would like to ask, what strategies you employ, you know, in ensuring that you do your best to provide or give equal attention to all your children, not only those with disabilities.
We don't really, I don't think we give extra, I don't know. I don't feel like we give like extra time to the kids with disabilities. They're just part of the family. And, you know, anytime we do anything, we either include everybody and do it together, or if it's something that's too hard to have, say, the girls that are that have the behavior problems, then we'll wait till they go to bed, and then we'll you know, really give the attention to the older kids. Yeah, it's just kind of dividing things up in whatever way works best.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am. And lastly, I would like to commend you for choosing to do what you have done in adopting persons with disabilities.
Thank you. It's been a blessing for us. Sometimes we say we're the lucky ones.
Okay, so we will close the program now. Heather, Landon, you'll be the last say for our program. We'll start with Landon first, and then Heather.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think advocating for people with disabilities is important, because in society, the people that do not have a disability will always hold a little bit more power and a little bit more say in what happens. And they're very capable and very intelligent and very important people in our communities that have a disability, but they did not choose that, and they didn't choose to live that life. But there is so much value that they can still bring to our families, to our friendships, to our communities, to our schools, to our workplace, to among our businesses. And it is our job, it is everybody's job, everyone in the whole community, to advocate and to promote disability awareness. And the more that we can do that, it will bring everybody up. One analogy I like to use is that when you, like the tide of the ocean, when the tide rises, all of the boats in the whole harbor rise together. And so if we will itataas natin yung mga tao na iba sa atin, lahat tayo tataas at grow. So I think that's what I would say, is it's upon all of us, the whole community, to advocate for those people, and we will all be better because of it.
Thank you so much, Landon. Heather?
Wow, he just said it so well. I don't even know what else to say. Yes, I mean, and one thing I learned from my little girls have a teacher at school who has been teaching kids with disabilities for 40 years. She's old. She's probably going to retire soon. And I thought, you know, when my girls started going there, I had put limits on what they could do. And this teacher just, she doesn't think of them as not, you know, having limits. She treats them just like everybody else, and just expects them to learn. And I learned from her that, like, if you just expect that people with disabilities can do so much and give them the opportunity to try and learn, you'll be amazed what they can do. So it's good to just always keep that perspective of not how are they different or what can't they do, but what's the possibilities, what can they do, and how can they contribute to my life.
All right. Okay. So thank you so much to our guests, Heather, Landon, Annette, and for all our panelists for tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you
to
for
all our
having us.
yes. Good, okay. Good evening, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Miss Heather. Thank you, Miss Annette. Thank you, Landa.
Tulog na kayo.
Tulog na tayo.
Tulog na.
Tulog na. Bye.
Bye-bye.